What's going on, you guys? So today I wanted to bring to you a list of my top 10 things that did not get answered in Star Wars Rebels. If by now you've probably already seen the finale. If you have not, steer clear because I'm going to talk about some spoilers. So this is your warning, but we're going to talk about those top 10 questions that either didn't get answered or basically things that were introduced in the finale that didn't get resolved. Questions that we're left with at the end of the entire series, or sometimes things that we were hoping they were going to come back to that they never did. So with that being said, let's start the countdown. I'm going to start with number 10. The 10 is, where did they get those X-Wings from? So, we saw this, the siege on Lothal here on, partway through Season 4. We knew that X-Wings were coming. They announced back in Star Wars Celebration that we were going to see X-Wings. And up until this point, the Rebellion had had no X-Wings at all. And then all of a sudden in this episode, the X-Wings just show up. And the reason that this is kind of, I think, should have been addressed is because they only had Y-Wings. They addressed where the Y-Wings came from. They had A-Wings all along. So they've had A-Wings for years. And they also addressed where B-Wings came from in another episode. So they've kind of addressed a lot of this stuff. They didn't specifically say where the A-Wings came from, but at least, it had been established that they had them. But this was a new ship showing up, like out of the blue. And they didn't say where they came from. They didn't, and this has kind of been a trend because similar to this, they also didn't address the Dornian gunships, although those were kind of just in the background. So that wasn't as big of a thing. But the X-Wings specifically were a big build-up, and it was a big fan payoff. And it wasn't even like a single line. It's like, oh, I would like to thank General Dodonna for making that deal with Incom to get us these T-65s. Nothing like that. So, that would have been nice had they done that, but they didn't. Interesting. Next up, number 9 is Kanan's lightsaber. So, Kanan died, and, we see Governor Price holding his lightsaber. Now, I had theorized that Kanan's lightsaber might have been like an artifact that might end up showing up in a movie someday. I was like, oh, what is this one? Because this is identifiable, because this is the only one that comes apart. So it's pretty easy to pick his lightsaber out from a group. And so that's something that, could easily be an Easter egg for something in the future, or maybe even like the central point for somebody like maybe Ezra to come back and find someday or something like that. But I was kind of expecting that I had this whole theory planned that she was going to hand it off to Thrawn, and Thrawn was going to execute her for her failure. And then after that point, Thrawn, would just put it on his collection, and maybe he hands it to his son, and his son becomes a Jedi and trains under Ahsoka and all of this stuff. I had this whole plan, but that interaction between Thrawn and Price never came, so there was no opportunity for Thrawn to actually get the lightsaber, unless, of course, she emailed it to him, which you can't do. So what has probably happened is that Kanan's lightsaber probably just got blown up in the wreckage, but we don't really know because Price has it in one episode, and then then a little bit later on, the other things happen. But Price has also gone out since then, so it could have, who knows? It could have been in a safety deposit box and now is floating in space. Stranger things have happened. This one's kind of lower on my list though, because I had big plans for it, and I thought it was going to make for a really cool potential Easter egg down the road, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Good chance it might be space dust. Next up at number 8, AP5 was notoriously absent, and I think a lot of people were kind of wanting to see some resolution with AP5, and he wasn't there. And it kind of depends on, maybe this might not be a big deal for you because he was a later introduction into the series, so maybe he wasn't that important to a lot of people, but he was notably absent. I'm not going to talk too much more about AP5 because he was not one of my favorite characters. I was not a big fan of his episodes personally, but some people really liked, especially that little singing scene with him. I didn't really particularly like AP5's episodes, so I'm okay with his absence, but at the same time, it seems awfully strange that they didn't mention him at all. Next up, the Katana fleet. We see our dreadnought right here. They didn't talk about these dreadnoughts at all. Now, there was a little entry done on StarWars.com that it's called a Wolf, and it's a support ship. So there's some stuff you can go check out on StarWars.com about this. But I was expecting a little bit more of a nod. Now, you can see multiple, and I've done a whole video on where I speculate they're going to be taking these dreadnoughts, and that there's going to be a new Katana fleet, and I'll link that at the end, so make sure you check that video out as well. But this is definitely one of those unanswered questions. Ranking in the middle for me because I've already talked about it so much, so it's not at the high point of things that I'm already expecting that they're going to definitely address this in the future. But there's a lot of potential here for all the Heir to the Empire stuff that they could be doing. Next up, Ezra's lightsaber. Ezra's lightsaber he didn't take it with him when he went to go turn himself in. Instead, he gave it to Sabine, which you see her use to help them escape. But an important thing about this is that at the very end, in the epilogue, you see her leaving with Ahsoka, but Sabine does not have Ezra's lightsaber on her. She's got her blasters, but she's not carrying Ezra's lightsaber. At least that we can see. It could be, stored somewhere else. Who knows? But this opens up a whole lot of potential questions, and this kind of takes the place of the missing Kanan's lightsaber theory crafting for me, and it actually takes it into a whole new place. So if Sabine has held on to Ezra's lightsaber, and Sabine survived all the way up past the Battle of Endor, which she obviously did, what happened to Ezra's lightsaber along the way? It's entirely possible, since Sabine has kept, knows about everything that's going on, Sabine would have kept tabs with everyone else. And it is possible that she would have come into contact multiple times with the Rebellion. These things stand to reason. She's still been friends with Hera, knows about Spectre 7, etc. Got it. If she's been part of the Rebellion, is it possible that she might have met Luke Skywalker? Maybe she wanted to meet another Jedi, since she had such good friends that were Jedis, Kanan and Ezra. Oh, and isn't it possible that Luke Skywalker might have said to Sabine, "I'm like, yeah, but I lost my lightsaber, after this thing on Bespin, and I lost my hand." Maybe she would go see her friend Luke Skywalker, after he's recovering. After she's like, "Wait, you lost your lightsaber?" He's like, "Yeah, but I have to build a new one now." "Oh, okay. Well, here I happen to have a kyber crystal. I guess I could loan you. Consider it a loan." I mean, that could be a whole story of Sabine working with Luke as he's going to build his own lightsaber. He wouldn't want to just take Ezra's, but maybe he would deconstruct Ezra's, use some pieces for it. Or maybe Sabine uses Ezra's lightsaber a little bit in some of the Mandalore stuff, right? And maybe the lightsaber gets damaged, and she can't make it work anymore. Well, all of a sudden, hey, Luke's trying to build one. I've got some pieces. Can you make this work? Can you restore this lightsaber? He's like, maybe I can. And then boom. And that's where you got Luke's green saber from Return of the Jedi. This is all new canon, so all of these backstories can be rewritten and stuff, but this would be a great way to tie that in, and that would explain why Luke's lightsaber is green, and that would explain why she does not have Ezra's lightsaber at the end of Star Wars Rebels. Interesting stuff. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Next up, what's the fate of the Inquisitor program? What's happened with all the other Inquisitors? We know that there's a lot of Inquisitors, right? And this is actually the 8th brother, who there was some question as to his fate, but I guess Dave Filoni confirmed that he actually died in the Season 2 finale as well. But we know that there was at least like 13 or so, or at least like 15 different Inquisitors, and I'm just doing numbers there. If you had 7th sister and 8th brother, that means there were at least, and you said 5th brother, but that means there were at least 15 Inquisitors plus the Grand Inquisitor. So, maybe at least 16, if not more. What happened to all the rest of the Inquisitors? They never really went back and told you the conclusion of the Inquisitor program. We really don't see any of them in the original trilogy, so it could be that the Emperor is just like, these guys are failing, let's be done with it. But they didn't come back to that. They didn't address the Inquisitor program. So, that's an interesting one. Next up, similarly related, who were these Royal Guard, elite, hybrid, Praetorian, whatever they were? Who were these guys with their force pikes that were not really like force pikes, because you tend to think of a force pike as having this lightsaber on the end, and these are some type of magic sticks. So who were these Roman candle-wielding, Praetorian Guard-looking, Royal Guard impostoring, force potentially adept guys, and why, this left us whole new questions. Who were these guys? What's their role? What were these staffs that they've got? lots of questions about these particular fellas or ladies. Next up, Commander Cody. This is number 2. This was one of the biggest ones for me because, Rex had mentioned Cody so many times. Everybody wanted to see this payoff of Rex meets Cody. What's going on here? What is going on? Well, I suppose they can still address this in the future. Maybe a one-off, maybe a book, maybe even a film. But, we know Rex is at the Battle of Endor now, so he definitely survived. So you've got years where you can do a Rex-Cody meetup. But this would have been just the perfect opportunity because, honestly, in Season 4, Rex didn't have all that much to do. So it would have been a perfect opportunity. Hey, let's give Rex an episode. Let's give him a good episode. I mean, Saw Gerrera got 2 episodes. How come Rex didn't get 1 episode that's like all about him? So... And this is the perfect... Everybody wanted this. There were so many mentions to Rex and Cody, and it had the potential to be so emotional, too. It could have been this whole, you were the... Like the same emotional resonance you might have had when Obi-Wan says to Anakin, you were the chosen one! Rex could have been like, you were my brother, how could you turn... or Cody might have been saying it to Rex, how could you betray us? He's like, no, you were never in control. It could have been so dramatic. Like, I could almost get emotional thinking about how it could have been. Why was this not an episode? I mean, Rebels has done great powerhouse episodes. This would have been one. Why did this not end up? And what's going on with... What is the fate of Cody? At least in the new canon. In the EU, he had a certain fate. But dude, what's gonna happen here? Why did they not address this? Huge deal. And then my number 1 is my number 2. That was number 3. Number 2 is the fate of the Mandalorians and the Darksaber. This was one that really had a lot of wide open stuff. What's gonna happen here? And this is pretty big. Like, the Darksaber's still out there. Bo-Katan's still out there. A whole lot of Mandalorians are still out there. I'm assuming Sabine will probably go back and deal with them some more. But there's a whole lot of open stuff that can happen here. And I think this is prime for either new movies, a new series, books, you name it. Very popular armor, very popular people, very popular weapons, very popular characters. This has got everything going for it. As well as, women in a leadership role, which is something that is very popular right now, too. So it definitely stands to reason that we might see some more out of this whole entire story arc before the end of, probably by 2020. I would imagine either at least a new book, if not a new movie or series based on Mandalore. So I definitely expect that. Now on to my number 1, for real this time. The number 1, Ahsoka the White. What is going on with this? What is this thing she's holding? Is she now just some sage who doesn't use lightsabers anymore? Has she evolved to this Master Yoda type of, I guess, presence where she just doesn't need a weapon anymore? And maybe this is just her walking stick and she's just like, I'm the lunar goddess Ahsoka Tan, or something like that. Like, what is her deal here? And more importantly, where's she been? Because don't forget, she got put back like 2 years behind. And Ezra says, come find me. She's like, I will. But she didn't come find... I mean, well, in theory, she's going to, right? But how come she didn't come and rejoin Ezra and say, hey, you saved me. I'm here now. Let's go on and do some other stuff. Maybe the answer is, well, she didn't want to interfere with the timeline, because if she had said to Ezra, oh, hey, this is going to happen, oh, well, then maybe that impacts things, and now maybe he doesn't go and save her, and it causes, a very wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey. And if you watch Doctor Who, you know what happens if you interfere with your own timeline. All kinds of crazy stuff can happen. The Daleks would show up, and then it would be like R2-D2 would be assimilated, and he'd have a plunger, and he would have sucked her face off. So that would have been really bad. But a whole lot of stuff can potentially happen here. With what Ahsoka was doing, did she have any interactions with anybody? Does she meet Luke? Like, could you imagine Luke and Ahsoka meeting up? They don't have to. Like, it's not required. She might have a completely separate arc. But it's awesome to think that Ahsoka is alive all the way up through past Return of the Jedi, and has an old Jedi starfighter shuttle thing, the T6, I think it is. I had actually asked about that in a previous video. But what has she been doing? You know, I mean, I know that I know what it looks like she's going to do. Her and Sabine are getting ready to kick off, Ahsoka and Sabine adventures, and that's going to be like awesome. And I definitely I would watch that show. But what else has been going on? Like, what has she been doing all this time? That Luke has been alone in the universe, right? Like trying to find, I found Obi-Wan's journal. This is going to teach me some things. Maybe she just doesn't want anything to do with the Jedi at all anymore. Maybe she's evil. I don't know. Would a bad girl wear white? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I do have another round of the giveaway going right now, so if you'd like to win a gaming expansion of your choice in the form of a $20 Cool Stuff gift card, only thing you need to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are awesome. Don't forget to click the bell for alerts so you don't miss when I put out new stuff or when I announce a giveaway. And thank you again. Yeah, have a great day.